But our next speaker, while Michelle is getting him ready, if you ever have the chance to meet him, please talk to him. He is the nicest dude, so polite, very smart. He's a father, he's a CEO, he's super inspiring. He's going to talk to us about leadership. Brandon Buck.
Is everybody okay? Can everybody hear me? I'm the first one that's virtually here talking, so is everybody good?
Oh, hold on a second.
We gotta get the volume up there.
Well, I gotta figure out the volume is on my computer. Haha. Ashley, in the chat, can
I
you
sure did, sister.
can they hear him on the chat or no?
I think they can hear me on the chat.
Just
Yes, you're getting yeses.
bear with me 1 minute.
Sounds good. Thanks, Eric.
Oh boy.
Jim Prescott, all the way from Oxford. That's exciting. Thanks, Jim. Can you hear me?
I'm not IT, guys. I'm so sorry. So the speaker is not coming through here, and it looks like my computer's not charging either. So you might have to just talk real loud for the people in the room. So I'm sorry, guys. I don't really know how to fix this. Thanks. Sorry. Bye. Okay.
Go for it, Brandon.
Just let me talk. I'll talk really loud. I'm usually pretty good at that. So first of all, Ashley, thank you so much for introducing me like that. I needed to record that for my wife to hear that. I don't know if that happens. But thank you all for being here. So what is success? I mean, we got almost over 50 people that have tuned in virtually. There's several people back there at corporate, and we all have this concept or this belief that we want to be successful. I mean, we talk about it all the time. We want a successful life, marriage, family, career. I mean, with what Riddell just talked about, people wanting to make a difference, make an impact, leave a legacy. But what does that actually mean? What does that mean to us? For the past 18, 19 years, I've worked with teams, athletes, companies, business professionals, leaders, and I ask them all that same question. What does it mean to be successful? And for a lot of them, they can't answer it. They have no idea really what that looks like in their day-to-day action. And that causes them just to go around doing all kinds of random stuff in hopes that they get a feeling of being successful. For the majority of those that I ask, their definition of success is all based around performance. It's all based around production. It's their number of wins. It's how many hits. It's their sales. It's their volume. It's inches lost. I've talked with parents with their idea of success is how well their son or daughter performs in a game. And if they perform really well, then I'm a successful parent. It's how many pounds I put on when it comes to strength. It's all of those things. It's all in the numbers. And I mean, and that was me. Several years ago when I was a former high school baseball coach, I had aspirations of wanting to go and coach at the collegiate level. And I thought it was all about wins. It was all about accolades. It was about rewards. And so it put all kinds of pressure, all kinds of stress on trying to win the game. That created tense relationships between me and parents. That caused me to act like an idiot when we didn't win. It caused tense relationships with my players. I brought that anxiety at home, all because I was focused on simply one measurement. But what about us here at XND? How do we measure success? What does success look like to us? Is it about sales? Is it about volume? Is it about the number of members we have on our team? Is it about the number of people that we got to the summit? Is it about incentive trips? Is it about compensation levels, right? And I'm not here to say that performance is not important. In fact, performance is essential. If we don't perform, if we don't sell, if we don't produce, there is no business, right? So it's essential that we have it. However, what if we added another level to it? Because see, performance is all about the future or it's all about the past. It's trying to control something that I can't control, or I'm dwelling about something in the past. But what if we added a level to success of right now? What if success was about how much value I brought in a conversation with someone? What if success was about how well I listened to my kids? What if success was about bringing giving more than I receive? What if success was about making you better, even if that meant being better than me? See, when we do that, I can focus right now, and it's no longer about me trying to feel successful. I am successful. I'm going to give you a couple examples. How many of you have ever heard of Pat Summitt? Pat Summitt is a legendary female basketball coach from the University of Tennessee. She was a head coach at 22 years old before the sport was even recognized or sanctioned by the NCAA. This is a woman that was relentless when it came to execution. She wanted women of sound character. In fact, she wanted Tennessee Volunteers off the court as much as she wanted them on the court. She was focused right now in every moment. This is a woman that drove the van, that did the laundry, that ordered the food. She did all of these things for these women. What's the byproduct of that? 8 national championships, 1,000 wins. Every single girl that played for her from 1976 to 2011 played in at least one Final Four. But what's even more remarkable is that 100% of her girls graduated with a degree. So just think about that. When's the last time you've done 100% of anything? I guarantee you when I go to the gym, I don't do 100%. Right? I go mountain biking, and if I go 50%, that's pretty good. That's more than most people, right? And I chalk that up, and then I come home. But she focused on the right stuff right now, my actions and my behaviors. Or how about John Wooden? John Wooden from the greatest university ever known, Purdue, and that's because that's where I went to school. This guy was a head coach at UCLA. But once again, when you showed up as a freshman, John Wooden taught you how to put on your socks and tie your shoes so that you wouldn't get blisters. This is a guy that created the leadership pyramid, right? That talks about love, caring, persistence, grit, compassion, kindness, because he focused about the heart of the athlete. Because see, to John Wooden, there is a big difference between losing and being beaten. Because see, when I get beat, you're just better than me. You're bigger, you're faster, you're stronger, you're just better. But when I lose, that's because I didn't focus on what I needed to do. I didn't focus on now. I wasn't prepared. I didn't focus on the fundamentals or the basics, and I let that slip. And he didn't focus on that. What does that look like? What does that performance look like? 10 national championships. He won 7 national championships in a row, won 88 games in a row. But what I think really speaks to the character of John Wooden is later on in life, his wife had been dead for 15 years. She had passed away and been dead for 15 years. And on the 21st of every month, the first thing John Wooden would do is wake up, write a love letter to his wife, tell her how much he missed her, fold the letter once, go into where all the stacks of letters were, untie the bow, and lay it on top and tie it back. And he did it not so that ESPN could do a 30 for 30 about him. He did it because that's who he was. This is a guy that simply preached what he practiced. And he could be a success in any venue, it didn't matter. Or how about Dabo Swinney? Dabo Swinney, arguably the greatest college football coach in the country right now. This is a guy that 2 years before he shows up at Clemson as an assistant coach, the guy is selling commercial real estate. He had never been a head coach, offensive coordinator, or defensive coordinator in any program in the entire country. And halfway through his second year at Clemson, Coach Bowden steps down, and both Coach Bowden and the athletic director named Dabo Swinney as the interim head coach at Clemson. Okay, why? Because he was unique. Why? Because he focused on the right things. It was his actions. It was his behaviors. He didn't simply talk. He walked the walk. See, we'll get into areas, a lot of times we think we can talk our way out of things. No, we have to act our way out of situations. And so he was going to act Clemson out of where they were at. This is a guy that had a windshield mentality. He embraced the grind. This is a guy that did common things in uncommon ways, okay? And what does that look like? 2 national championships. They won 29 games in a row. They played in 4 of the last finals. But what I think is even more remarkable about Dabo Swinney is that since 2014, only 4 coaches have left his program. Guys that can make 6 or 7 times that amount of money won't leave because they see a guy that does it right and they want to be around because he focuses on the right thing. So if this is possible, right? If it's possible for us to not only focus on the performance, but also focus on the being, how do we do that as individuals? okay? So the first thing I want that we need to do, so the first thing we need to write down, the first thing as us as leaders must do in order to have this opportunity is we got to be open to change. We have to understand that we don't know it all. Because see, when it comes to change, people only change one of two ways. One, it's gradual, or two, they get blindsided and they get hit in the face, right? It's like they get hit with the sledgehammer. They lose their job, they lose their career, they lose their house, they lose their marriage, and that forces them to change. And I love what the Pittsburgh Pirates say. The Pirates will say that either you're humble or you're about to be. Well, I would much rather just be humble instead of be humble, right? And so I have a question for you. Now, this is a rhetorical question, right? We can't answer this, but I want you to think about yourself when it comes to this concept of humility, right? How would you rate yourself when it comes to leadership, talent, skills, and knowledge? Like if we go just a broad spectrum, when it comes to the workforce, where would you rate yourself in those areas? Leadership, abilities, talent, skills. Would you put yourself above average or would you put yourself below average? Now I want you to think of the members at XND, right? The people that are on this call. Where would you put yourself? Are you above average or are you below average? Now, my guess is that a super majority of us, 75, 85% of us, put us above average. You put yourself above average. Now, what's the reality to average? Reality is 50% of us are below it, right? So look to your left or your right on the screen, or if you're back at corporate, look to your left or your right. It's one of you, right? And I share that not to discourage you, but to let you understand that every single person on this call or every single person that you meet with is unique. They have a different perspective. They have a different experience. They can bring value if we're just open enough to listen. Because see, humility, it's not thinking less of ourselves. In fact, it's having conviction. It's having conviction in what I believe and what I know is true, but it's humble enough to know that I could be wrong. It's asking people their thoughts first before I just simply speak. So for us to be able to have an impact that we've talked about, to make a difference, to be successful, we as a leader have to be humble. The second thing that we have to do is we've got to know, what does success look like to us? So I want you to do something for me on your notes. I want you guys to make two columns. On the left side, I want you to write best self. And on the right side, I want you to write worst self. So best self and worst self. Now I want you to think about your best self. I want you to describe it. What does your best self look like when someone cuts you off on the freeway, right? What does your best self look like when you've told your kids 25 times to put their shoes on before school and they still not done it? What does your best self look like when you've got this summit set and ready to rock and then the government says you can't have it anymore, we have to go virtual, right? What does your best self look like when that person you know that would be perfect at XND tells you no? Okay, my best self, man, it's rooted in my why. My why is about other people, and it's about being selfless. It's about how much value I can bring to you, Kyle, to you, Debbie, to you, Mike, to you, Lee, okay? And if I am focused on you, I'm locked in on my values. That's all I can control at any given moment, is bring my values all the time. And my values are, I'm a person of faith, I'm a person of integrity, I'm a person of persistence, courage, action, and responsibility. Those are my 6 core values, and I bring them as often as I can. See, for work and for XND, we're going to have a list and we're going to go out and meet. But what's my purpose for those meetings? If I go into them to bring value, if I go into them to bring my values and to add value to that person, I can walk away from that meeting being successful right then, right? Regardless if they buy or not. See, my best self is pursuing excellence, not perfection. There's a big difference. My best self sets my priorities. In fact, I prioritize or I schedule my priorities. I do not prioritize my schedule. See, my best self, it's focused in that, and I'm okay to say no. And so it's simply pausing all the time and asking myself that question. When I get home from work and I'm exhausted and in the garage and I haven't seen my kids all day and all I want to do is go in and put my feet up on the couch and watch TV, let me pause. What would my best self do? My best self's going to go get my son and go play catch. I'm going to jump on the trampoline. I'm going to do it. Why? Because it's the right thing to do. And you know what? When my best self comes out, I never regret it. Am I going to go play catch with my son and come back in and say, well, that was stupid? Right? But what about when it comes to working out? There's tons of athletes that are on here. No one wants to work out at 5 o'clock in the morning, right? That's awful. But that's not the question. What would your best self do? If you go to the gym, do you get done? Do you ever say, well, why did I get in shape? That was a horrible idea. See, we don't live with regrets when we act in our best self. Now, the problem is, if we go to the next side of that graph, we have our worst self. And this makes up us all, right? We all have this. And in fact, I've got 2 of them. One of my worst selves is arrogance. See, I've got a value of persistence, but that can very easily become stubbornness or become arrogance, right? And when I get into that mode, now all of a sudden I'm going to compete and I'm going to try to prove you wrong. Somebody tells me no, watch out, I'm going to prove you wrong. Somebody tells me no, I'm going to be right. I'm going to win even if it's not the right thing to do. I'm going to run. I'm not going to prioritize. Now all of a sudden the why is about me. See, when I'm in an arrogant self, if someone tells me no, now all of a sudden you're a bad person. You don't want to do XND, I don't like you, right? And that's just where I can slip into it. Now the problem with that is that I'll produce. Like I will sell because I'll grind it and I'll grind it. But it will happen at the expense of all the relationships that are closest to me. I'll sign someone up and I won't walk alongside of them to make sure they're getting what they need from me, that I'm helping them get what they want. And see, I'll just burn people out. But the other thing of my worst self is I also have a negative side, right? I have a low self-esteem. I have this fear side. And that side's focused on the past because I've screwed up a lot. I've done a lot of stupid things. And so when I'm in that fear, that low self-belief side, now all of a sudden when I fail, I'm a failure. Like, who am I kidding? My best friend or my family member that I knew would be perfect at it, and they tell me no, and it crushes me. And it's like, I just can't do it. Well, who am I kidding to think that I can come out and actually sell product to anyone? Okay? I feel sorry for myself. I only do things when they're convenient. When I'm in that low self-belief, low self-esteem, see, I have no why, I have no values. I'm just simply an energy suck to anyone else around me. And so we want to know both of these, right? Because we're going to slip into both of them. And it's not that it's not to just prevent us from going into our worst self. It's so that I recognize it and I see it and I don't stay there very long. So that when I get into it, it's like, holy cow, what am I talking about? And I can immediately get back into my best self. So when we do this, when we understand what success looks like, it's not so that we have a resume like Coach Wooden, Coach Summit, or Coach Sweeney, right? Like that becomes the byproduct, a legacy, impact, difference. That's a byproduct of me simply being the best self over and over and over again. I am focused on the now, which is all I can control. And when I do that, when I focus right now on my behaviors, now I can be coached up on the performance. If I'm bringing my best self and I'm not performing, man, Kyle, please coach me up on that. Mike, please coach me up on that. Please help me get better there because I'll listen to it. So when we get off of this call, right, as I get ready to close this up and have Ashley come back on to introduce our next speaker, okay, when we get off here, we're going to be filled with emotions. We're going to have excitement. We're going to have motivation. We're going to be scared. We're going to have fear. We're going to have all of those things going on. But none of that matters unless it's followed with authentic action. And so if there's one thing that you can do, if there's one thing you remember from this talk as we get off here in a few hours, right, we're done, is I want you to wrap your identity around your best self. I want that to be your focus. That's who you are. Because when we wrap our identity around our best self, we're no longer a CEO, right? I'm no longer a teacher. I'm no longer an athlete. I'm no longer a parent. I'm no longer just a boss or an employee. See, that's what we do. No, see, when I wrap my identity around my best self, see, now I'm a person of faith. I'm a person of integrity. I'm a person of action. I'm a person of persistence, of courage, and responsibility. And that person can be successful in any venture that they want to pursue. Thank you all very much, and be a champion today.
That was awesome. I feel like I can do anything now, which is good. That's how we all should feel. I'll jump right into our next speaker. He too is also a very snappy dresser. I think you may know who I'm talking about. Also a dad, also a public speaker. He loves reading. He loves helping people. Jeremiah Captain. He will also be
Great. You guys hear me okay? Everyone got me? You hear me? All right, cool. Well, thank you guys so much for putting this on. And Brandon, thank you for delivering that awesome message about leadership. We're kind of tag teaming on this. So he kind of tagged me and I'm tagging him out. And I get the honor to really talk about the most important thing to drive our business to scale. Because great products are important, great branding is important, and we have that. But for us to truly grow this company to a level that's going to be meaningful to us to make that difference, it's going to boil down to leadership, because everything rises and falls on leadership and building relationships. So leadership is the capacity to influence others through inspiration, motivated by a passion, generated by a vision, produced by a conviction, and ignited by a purpose. So understanding what your purpose is where people are going to start to follow you as a leader. And if you could hit those next, I think you just throw them all down and I can just break them down so you don't have to. Thank you. Thank you so much. You're good.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Teamwork, right? We're all working this together. So I'm at home. You know, the coronavirus actually canceled my flight. I wanted to be there with you guys. I actually was trying to make it, but the airport said you can't go. So we have to adapt and be nimble. And I'm wearing my blazer and I'm wearing my shirt, but I'm gonna be very honest with you guys. I got shorts on underneath here. so having some fun. I'll post it later. Right? But you know, the most important thing about leadership is leadership means lead your ship. You have to lead yourself. And the most important leadership that needs to be done is between your four walls. And it's how you lead if you're a parent, and how do you lead yourself? Because you can't take somewhere where you haven't been. And trapped inside of every follower is a hidden leader. So we just have to help people develop themselves. And that's what we're going to do here at Xendurance. We're going to develop leaders, because if you truly just want to earn a little bit of income through selling products, these are the best products on the market. The products sell themselves. They're great. But to build an organization, you have to build people. And one of my great mentors in this industry told me, we don't build organizations, we build people, and the people go build the organization through how we speak into their lives and empower them. So I have to just let you guys know right quick, yes, we do sell amazing world-class products, and we service customers, we show the plan, and we teach people how to do what we do. But I got to let you guys know you've been duped. If you want to build an organization, you're not in the supplement business. You're in the people business. You're in the human resource business. You're in the human attraction business. You're in the human behavior business. You're in the human development business. We develop people to flourish. So before a leader can be inspired, you know, he must be inspired by the people before he can inspire anything else. So you have to know why you're doing this. And there's a great book by Jocko Willink, and they talked about extreme ownership. There's really no bad teams, there's bad leaders. And you have to, you know, this is a high level conversation for us to get to that next level, to learn how we want to grow. So we want to grow as leaders so our organizations can grow. We don't want to be the lid of our organization. So leadership is an ongoing education. So true leaders see themselves as lifelong students, right? The person that knows everything, I bet you pretty much knows the least. And they typically don't have the people. They may have all the answers, but they won't have all the people. So as Buck said, you want to be an ongoing learner and humble yourself alongside of that. So next slide, please. And you can drive all those bullet points down. So this was a great book by John Maxwell. He calls it The 5 Levels of Leadership. And I think this hits the point right on. Mute yourself. Yeah, someone's muted. Can you guys mute JP? We got a JP on these, kind of getting some feedback. Thank you, Michelle. Yeah. So I actually in bed last night, as I was kind of getting my thoughts together, I actually have a 6th one I'm gonna add in here too. So we're gonna talk about the first one, positional leadership. This is ranks, titles. This is us advancing through the compensation plan. A boss may have a rank, or a manager may have a rank, but a leader will always have the people. This is one of the lowest levels of leadership, where people will follow you just because, oh, you're the manager, you're the boss, you have this title, but they don't have to follow you if you don't have the behaviors to be a true leader. The second level of leadership is permissional leadership. This is where you built that trust, that relationship, that friendship. People follow you because they trust you. And this is so important. But what happens is some people get stuck here and they don't develop outside of that. So the one I'm going to insert before production leadership is the prepared leader. This is someone who knows all the information, has all the facts, knows this, but doesn't ever do it, right? They have all the answers. They say, hey, you should go do this, but they haven't produced anything. So people will follow you because you have the great answers, but you're going to have a lid if you're not able to show them how to go win. So I just inserted that other one in between permission and production, talking about the person that prepares. Because a lot of people that are always getting ready, they're always preparing, they always got the insight, but when it boils down to getting results, are they producing? And the next level of leadership is the productional leadership. This is people follow you because you're a producer. This is someone who's great at moving product. They're great at, maybe moving up in ranks. People love you. You're a rock star, but you can get trapped here if you cannot duplicate other leaders. And you need each one of these others to move up. So I can't forget about the relationship. I can't forget about preparing. I can't forget about producing to be a people developer. And the people developer is one of the most important ranks to get to from a level of leadership, because people follow you because you teach others how to do what you did. You help them grow. All right. That's the people development part of leadership. And it's so important to get there, because for us to grow XND, if we want to build something sustainable, something consistent, consistent part-time revenue or long-term big-time revenue, you have to become a people developer. If you're just a productional leader, if you're just a preparer, if you're just good with relationships and you're just good, with just having a rank, you're going to cap out at some point. So this is where we have to develop as leaders to develop other people. All right. And the last level of leadership is pinnacle leadership. This is one of the highest levels of leadership. This takes a lifetime. These are people, when they leave this earth, they never leave this earth. You know what I'm saying? Like they're still speaking long after they live because of how they live their life. Like he talked about with Pat, the basketball coach. He talked about John Wooden. All of us know some of these legacy leaders that we could think of right now when we think of leaders like Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela. These people that lived a life of high character, high moral standard, and made a difference in the world. All right. So next slide, 5 levels of leadership. Thank you guys for participating and listening to that. And building relationships. The only thing difference between a contact and a contract is the R, baby. Got to have the R. So how do you build a relationship? It's through trust. Trust is the little thing that makes the biggest difference. Trust is even more important than love, because I can love you and not trust you, right? We know some of those people, hey, I got love for you, but I can't trust you because of maybe 2 things, character or competence. It boils down to those 2 things. People can forgive you for a competence in you, but a character flaw, it could take a lifetime. So character and competence are so critical. And if you look at this as like a tree, the root word integrity actually comes from a word fig that means root. So the Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey, he talks about breaking down, trust into 2 parts, character and competence. And there's 4 parts in each part of that. Character represents your integrity. That's the root. Intent is the trunk of the tree. So what's your intent when you're talking to someone? Is it just about you winning and signing them up, or is it about you truly helping them? And people can smell your intent, and you can't forget one of those 4. You got to have all 4. You got to have your integrity intact. Your character, how you live your life, your intent, as Buck said, of how you show up and sit down with the person. Is it truly about them growing, or is it just about you trying to hit a rank and just get them to place an order so you can upgrade? Or is it truly about them growing? And then the competence side, the 2 parts of competence is the capability. So capability is so important, because you could be a great person. Like, hey, man, you're a good person. You're my friend, but I don't want you to work on my shoulder if I dislocated it. If you're not competent, if you're not capable of doing it. So developing some capable skills. And then the last part of competence is the results you produce. That's the fruit. So competence breaks down to the capabilities that you have, and then the fruit that you produce. And then there's always a trust tax. And we may not know it, but this is so important. As you're going to see the next slide, there's a trust tax and there's a trust dividend in business and relationships. And we want to help us understand, what these look like. So if you look off to the left, the trust tax, when trust is low in your organization or in any company, any team, When trust is down, when people don't trust, not necessarily you as an individual person, they think you're a bad person, but if they don't trust you can help them get what they want, their speed of taking action is going to slow down. And then the cost is going to go up. So if I've been doing business, let's say me and Rodell have been doing business for 30 years together. We're not that old, but let's say we have, and he brings me a deal and says, hey, Jeremiah, I got this new deal. I want you to, bring some money towards it. I trust him. We've done so much success. It doesn't take time. It's like, hey, let's take action right now. Here's the money. Let's go. Speed doesn't slow down, and it doesn't cost me that much. But if I didn't trust Rodell, it's going to take my time to look at it, and I'm going to have to bring lawyers in, so it's going to cost me more money. So we're always operating with the trust, paying a trust tax, or we're getting a trust dividend. So when you have trustful people, there's certain people in your warm market that will just come with you because they trust you. Hey, I'm signing up because I know you know what you're doing. Just as Sarah talked about Mike, she trusts Mike. So the speed in her making a decision to show up was a lot faster. And the cost went down on her missing out on an opportunity to change her life and earn that trip. If she would have took longer, she wouldn't have had enough time to go earn that trip out the gate, because the trust was so strong with Mike and previous people over that she knows had success in her last company. She was able to take action. So, Mike experienced a trust dividend with that relationship. And the last part is the morale of your business or your organization or even relationships. You ever be around someone that you don't trust? How does it feel being around them? Energy's down, joy's down, right? You know what I'm talking about? You just walk in the room, you're like, oh man, like just there's something going on. But when the trust is up, when you got that person, you can think of someone you trust dearly, like your mom, your brother, potentially a friend, a business partner. I have people at XND on your team. Trust is up, energy's up, joy is up. So it's so important to understand that we're always paying a trust tax or receiving a trust dividend in our organization or with the people we're leading. So, as I get ready to land this plane, I don't think I have any more slides behind that. I truly just am grateful for the opportunity. I don't want to take too much time because I know we're a little bit behind. I want to give the next speaker time to hop up. But you truly have to understand, you guys, yes, we do sell world-class products, you guys. But if you truly want to be here for the long haul, if you truly want to build a robust organization and make it different and move this company to the level of where it should be because of the powerful products, the powerful branding, the force for good that Sandy Kellen talks about that we're going to be in the world, it's going to take us growing as leaders. It's going to take us growing and being better with relationships. It's going to take for us to develop and experience more trust amongst each other as leaders and people out in the field. And the only asset you truly have is the people you lead. You're in the people business. You got to understand, we do sell products, you guys, but at the end of the day, we transform people's lives, and you can't help someone that doesn't trust you. So with that being said, we're about to dive into more of XND and learn more about these amazing products and learn about the play we're going to run out to the marketplace. I'm so grateful that you guys were able to still put this together. Thank you guys for allowing me to share my heart. And now I'm going to take my jacket off and just chill in my shorts.
Thank you, Jeremiah. Shorts are so snappy. Don't act like they're not. I love that you said we're in the business of people and building relationships, because we truly are, whether we realize it or not. And it's actually the perfect segue into our next speaker. I've actually never met him in person. I've only met him via email and phone. And while we were emailing back and forth, I asked him a few questions about himself. He was special ops. He's got a gym called Supper City. It's like, this guy sounds terrifying. What am I getting into here? But we spoke on the phone, super nice. And immediately when he walked in, I knew who he was. I could tell that's the intimidating guy with the nice face. He's super nice. Called me by my full name. So formal, so considerate. Jason France.
Yeah, right here, have the camera. Yeah, and then I'll be here to just, click away.
Well, hey, everybody out there in the world, great to see you all. Everybody here who's, a lot of people travel. We came here from out of town. Hey, thanks for making it here today. Thank you guys very much. And thank you to XND, to Jason, the people I kind of know a little bit, Andrew, Sarah, everybody has been over the top adaptive to the situation that we're all dealing with. And I think it's a testament to the importance of what each of us do here as practitioners and professionals in the health and fitness community, because I'm a man of preparation. And I think we're beginning to live in an age where the concept of let's protect ourselves, let's protect our kids, let's just be hyper protective. And we can kind of see the exfoliation of that mindset. We can see what happens when we aim to avoid and contend with that which must be contended with. And our health is absolutely critical. And there's a distinction there between health and fitness. And I think that's become lost, and the lines there have been blurred a little bit over the past couple of decades. And it's my mission, it's my purpose every day I wake up with the intent to clear the lines a little bit for a lot of people out there who just don't have the time, the energy, or perhaps even the ability to make sense of this complicated system we have called the human system. Right? Everything from the psychological experience we're having from moment to moment to the physical bodies we've got to maintain. It's a challenge. It's a complex situation we're all exposed to every day. And we're in a time right now, these past couple of weeks, as things have kind of come to a wave of a bit, where the adaptive nature of our human capacities must be tapped into. So I want to give a round of applause to everybody at XND for really making this happen. Thank you so much. And so, yes, I wanted to get into a little bit of, as a business owner of a training center called Suffer City, and it's more or less a way for my vision of Suffer City is to help people relieve their own suffering. Because, you know, if you woke up this morning, first thing you had to do was get out of bed. You had to fight gravity, and if we know anything about anything, all day long, you got to carry yourself against gravity, and that alone is just a token of the suffering we're sort of exposed to. Never mind the primal urges we have for hunger, the insatiable sensations we have just to be cooled at a perfect 72 degrees. And so what are some of the factors that we can take notice of? What are some of the actions we could take to relieve our own sense of suffering, whether it be psychological, whether it be psycho-emotional, whether it be a sense of spiritual suffering we're having, or physical suffering when it comes to our health and fitness. And so that's sort of what Suffer City is in itself. It's a training center for me to take a lot of what I learned as a special operator for the Marine Corps Raiders from 2003 to 2013 or so. I participated for the Marine Corps Special Operations community. And a lot of the stuff I learned there, I now implement and share with the community down in Gilbert. So if you guys are ever down there and you want a little token, a little dose of suffering and fitness, come on down, check it out. All right. So, and so we also did a study. I had the good fortune of meeting, I don't know what exactly slide is on next.
Yeah, me either. We're going to just
awesome. Go. Okay, great. So I had the good fortune of meeting an XND representative. Her name's Emily. She's here now. And the organic nature of the relationship that's grown between myself and as representative of Suffer City and then XND has been phenomenal. And so for anybody who's looking, even from an organizational standpoint, which I have as a business owner, to the individual level, there's some things you got to take into consideration before you even slap your hand on the table and accept the responsibility, because it is a responsibility of being your own business owner within XND. And so I can't thank the people around me enough. Emily, who sits over there now, she's built a good relationship with sort of my partner in crime over at Suffer City, Danielle, who's not here, but she really runs point on a lot of the XND operations and ensuring that our membership and our citizenship, as we call it, is well aware, well informed, and also well supplemented in terms of taking the proper supplements at the right time, the right doses, and things like that. And fortunately for me, I get to stay focused on what I do, which is I investigate deeply what goes on in the supplements, the ingredients. We'll get into more a little bit about that in a moment. But the training center integration, it is a delicate balance. For those of you who are coaches, trainers, performance coaches, if you're in the health and fitness industry, you're here to serve. Right? We're service kings and queens, and that's what we want to help people. That's ultimately what we want to do. But then there's also the product piece now. And so for me, in making the choice, like, hey, is XND right for us? And it took me a little while to test it out. I wanted to make sure that there's efficacy in the product. Does it work? It's got to work. If it doesn't work, then what are we doing, right? It's got to work. Well, it turns out it works. Great, awesome. And that's the product piece. So do the products work? And then the process. For me, it was a process piece too, man. How do I integrate this? I'm a new gym owner, been open for a couple of weeks, and the big ticket for us is we got to get membership up. And that's my number one focus every day. And now it's like, well, now we got to sell products, right? How do I integrate this into the process? And so delicate balance. It's a very delicate balance because I want to serve my clients. I just want to sell them products all the time. But it turns out if I'm giving them the best products in the industry at the best possible price in the right amounts at the right times, I'm servicing them, baby. I'm servicing them every day. I'm servicing them at a higher level than I possibly could have otherwise. And so finding that it was the right fit because I'm tired of hearing about weight loss. Tired of it. Tired about weight loss products, weight loss programs. I'm tired of a community of health and fitness professionals who are now doing one thing and one thing only, and that's to help people lose weight. People deserve more. They deserve better, right? Absolutely, I'm with you on that. They deserve better. And XND does that. Like when I met with Andrew the first time, we were talking about the products. The term weight loss never even came up. We're talking about performance, talking about optimizing the human experience. And my favorite thing you'll see down here, the mind, body, soul piece, and this is what sold me on your company, by the way. This is what got me into XND, was a logo, was something that talked about conversing, having a conversation. The first course of action when we're trying to optimize this human experience and enrich our mental performance is the most natural thing we have, our ability to communicate. And so I saw that, and I was like, wow, this is a company that's kind of doing things a little bit differently. And you see the mind, body, soul thing on there, and I think XND is speaking to that. Xendurance is aiming to strike deep into the soul of the human so we can begin to integrate health and fitness from the inside out. And so that was a big thing for me. The missions, the values, the objectives fell in line with what we were doing. Because as a business owner, you got to keep your main thing the main thing. And I'm a guy who's like, oh, that's it. I get shiny ball syndrome like crazy. And again, that's why I got good people around me just to keep me pointed in the right direction. They push play and I do stuff. All right, but otherwise, I would just do anything and everything all the time. All right, but had XND not fit our missions, our mission, our values, and our objectives, it wouldn't have worked. And so for yourself, too, you got to ask yourself this question. You know, and I think Jeremiah spoke a lot to this. The speaker before that was named Buck. Yes, he spoke to that as well. You've got to get so clear on what the heck you're doing, how the heck you're going to do it, and why you're doing it. It's got to be so crystal clear. You got to sit down. It's got to be the story of your life. You know, it's got to be absolutely so evident to you and to others around you. And again, something Jeremiah spoke about, because once it is evident to you and evident to the others around you, you can't help it. You're in charge. You're a leader. People are going to be like, whoa, I want what you want. What is it? It's purpose, baby. It's purpose. I wake up in the morning, take a big cup of it, wash it down, and then all day long, taking more of it, taking more of it, taking more of it, taking more of it. Before I come here, like, okay, how does this align with my purpose? What can we do here today? You know, I mean, I have some stuff to talk about, but at the same time, we're at a time right now. Things are crazy. Things are nuts. And we're up here on the second floor of XND having this mock together summit. Why? You know, things are accelerating fast and they're not slowing down. And so it's important to you to not wake up in 5 years trying to continue to get it together and find out, where do I fit in this thing? So start now. The values and the objectives are important. The record and track measurables, that was another thing. Proven supplementation is what's key. Proven, clinically tested, proven nutrition practices is what I believe in. And so again, a lot of the conversations we had revolved around that. Hey, how do we track this? And so a lot of what we did as well, and I'll get to the numbers that we did, we ended up having a week-long trial with the Extreme Endurance and the Fuel 5 Plus. Yeah, you can go ahead and go on. And so we do a lot of performance training at Suffolk City. A couple people in here have had the pleasure of training there. And I'm fascinated by performance and what the human can possibly do, especially in today's day and age where most people walk into the Suffer City doors and like, I don't know if I belong here. Like, I don't know if I can do this stuff. And it's beautiful to see people, their minds change as they start doing stuff they never thought they would do. Some of which is this performance measuring product we have called, I call it the Inglorious Bastard. It's some of our stuff is referred to after movies. And it's a strength endurance challenge. There's a bit of running. We have non-motorized ZebX runners at our training facility. It involves some strength components with some thrusters, some pull-ups, some upper body pulling and pushing stuff, some box jumps, some push-ups. It's a miserable 20 to 30 minutes. And people go hard. People train hard. It's a race to some extent. We try to aim for a couple things at Suffer City. A, it's going to be challenging. That's something I really wanted to integrate back into the fitness market. It's going to be a challenging training session. There's going to be competition, very competitive. It's specialized small team training, generally trained up with or teamed up with other people, and it's an hour of competitive activities. It's awesome. But what comes from that is a lot of camaraderie. As you're teamed up with people, you're going through some trials and some tribulations. It's stressful. You adapt, you overcome, and you really meet a lot of fascinating people. I'll tell you, everybody that comes to our training sessions, you don't just get to know the trainer's name. The trainer doesn't get to know you. Everybody knows your name by the time you leave that place. It's awesome. It's fantastic. And through that, people do work hard. The outcome of those three things of a challenging training session, a lot of competitive spirits being thrown around the room, and then the camaraderie, people work hard. And the numbers that you see up there through this training session, a lot of people started at about 22 minutes, between 22 and 29 minutes. And you see the number in blue there was 8 weeks after, or 8 days after they began supplementation, which was Fuel 5 Plus in cooperation with Extreme Endurance. And it was as per the guidelines on the packaging. So they just took it as per. So you can kind of see there, reduction in time without question. You see 28 minutes down to about 25 minutes, 30 minutes down to 27 minutes. Same exact protocol, same exact training regimen. Most of, if not all of the environmental conditions were on par with their previous attempt. We kind of see our athletes. We had 12 athletes. You kind of see the percentage of improvement in their times. Minus 39 seconds, minus 2 minutes, 34 seconds. We had one athlete drop, one of our male athletes, and that was due to an additional medication he began taking that week. It was a blood pressure medication. About 10 minutes into the performance measurement, he had to quit training. So we don't know. Probably not an interaction. Don't think it was, but it was his medication he was having a problem with. You'll see one really big number up there, 4 minutes, 16 seconds. And this is something else I kind of wanted to talk about because there's the numbers, there's the data, which is sort of cool. You kind of see that, hey, you could also think, well, it took it a week before, maybe there was a placebo effect, who knows, with the discussion. But at the end of the day, the numbers are pretty stark and clear. There's an asterisk next to that minus 4 minutes, 16 seconds. And this is what I thought was cool. We had a gal on that day, she had to walk a few times during her running portion of the measurement. And she said, I got this pain in my foot's not feeling that good. It's keeping me from running. I'm like, all right. So the week later, she ran, and I noticed a time difference. I'm like, hey, what's going on? She's like, I don't know. She couldn't really think of it at first. But then she came to me the next day. She's like, I had to tell my foot doesn't hurt anymore. Oh, that's awesome. Bravo. That's good to know. And so I put the asterisk there. Well, funny, so there's that thing. And then talking with her this week and some other athletes who are no longer taking the extreme endurance, the trial ran out, they're just like, I'm not taking it, the foot hurts again. Okay, so that's just something like, okay, that's interesting. Another couple of our athletes are like, hey, I'm feeling soreness again. I wasn't feeling it last week. I don't know if there's causation or correlation there, what there is, but I definitely just feel a little more soreness after the training session I'm experiencing. And we're having more conversations. I didn't have the time to get the questionnaire back, but we sent a questionnaire about ease of use. How easy was it for you to use it? What were the benefits, noticeable benefits you experienced? What were some side effects, some things you'd like it to be better, some things you'd like it not to do as much? And so as we get that back, I'll obviously relay it, but the conversations are where a lot of the efficacy is being proven to me, is just hearing what people have to say. with regard to a lot of the products. And it's fascinating because people think of supplementation, and a lot of what we do, again, is education. I talked a little bit about it in the slide here. Education is so key. You know, we got to be able to know, understand, and transfer this information. Knowing is just having the information. Understanding it is how to apply it. You got to be able to apply this stuff. I can't tell you how many trainers and coaches. Do you have trainers in here? Any personal trainers, coaches? How many people I know are just like saying words that they memorize out of a book, and then you go to pressure check them a little bit, and then they don't know what to say after because they're just saying words. It's like we got to get into the principles, the theory, the underlying philosophy as to why this stuff does what it does, so that we can better educate our clients, our people, other people that we're going to help build their own business within this organization as well. And this is the last slide. Oh no, where is it? Oh yeah, there you go. So overall, per athlete on average improved 7.44%, which is pretty good. I mean, that's, you know, some margins, as these athletes get better and better at doing this, our margins get a little smaller, if you will. So that's one thing, is a total between, I guess I measured for 11 people on that, 1,311 seconds. Oh yeah. So, well, I'm gonna switch this over. Oh, that's it. Okay. All right. Thanks so much, by the way. I really appreciate that. Yeah, so I'll tell you, for those of you who are just getting started, or the people just getting started here, if you're here at the summit, it seems like you're pretty bought in, right? Like you're doing it. I can't stress enough the importance of just diving in to these processes. And this is what I think is so elegant about where I'm talking in terms of, who spoke before me. Is our first gentleman, was it Rydell Razor? Mm-hmm. Awesome. Rydell spoke about time. Time is so important to him, right? Like time is so and it is like, what are we gonna do about time? There's no capacity for anything. The next gentleman spoke about bringing action into the interactions that he has, energy. And that's really what we're talking about and sort of what we're experiencing from moment to moment. You got time throughout the course of your day. How much value do you create from that time by the energy you invest in it? That's really what it's about. Like when you leave here today, action, 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 diving into these processes. I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of sales talk, a lot of discussions about getting that sales process going, how to get people attracted to your business, how to get people interested in your business, and eventually how to get people involved in your business. It's critical to understand those processes without question. So work your butts off. Absolutely work your butts off, because it's, as you can tell, world's not slowing down. All right, and wash your hands. Okay, thanks to everybody out there. Thanks to XND.
All right, so Jason gave us a little tease of what's next, but I do have an announcement. We were going to have Eric Averill talk about finances today. Unfortunately, he was unable to make it, but check out our podcast if you haven't heard it yet, because he does a great one on finances. And I know everyone's super excited. Got the little tease, so I won't stay up here long. Mr. CEO, Jason St. Clair, take it away.
Tell me what we've been waiting for. I hope you guys know we take the necessary time to build products that we know that will work, just like Jason talked about. Just like technology advances, supplementation has to advance. And we feel that we've built an innovative product that the market hasn't seen. So watch this.
What we have done and what we continue to do with our products is design and develop our own formulas, including the most bioavailable ingredients at research dosage levels. This ensures the engineering of the end product is best quality for its intended purpose. This new product is remarkable in the way we've combined elements of natural energy with one of the most researched nootropics on the market to revolutionize the way in which we focus. Traditionally, energy products are made by overloading stimulants and other additives that can be harmful to the body. When you overstimulate the body, it increases the opportunity for poor quality sleep decrease in brain function, and other potential health risks. Focus features some of our most innovative ingredients, alpha size and beet root powder. We figured out a way to fundamentally change the way we work and even live with focus.
Hey guys, I'm not going to take away from this next slide. Please pay attention to this next presentation. It's about 35 minutes long, but the information that you're going to get, you're going to be blown away by. Seriously, pay close attention.
Okay.
Hello all, my name is Braxton Wright with ChemiNutra. I'm sorry I can't be at this conference with you guys, but we've been recently grounded by our bosses in Italy for any travel right now, so I guess we're doing this over recording. So essentially I'm here today to talk to you guys about alpha size, alpha glycerol phosphocholine. So alpha GPC is generally the trade name that you will see. Essentially, this is one of our main flagship ingredients that we sell to brands that use in their products to end consumers like yourselves. And I'm just going to go into more detail on it because it is a truly novel ingredient and there isn't a ton of information or a ton of understanding yet in the marketplace of what alpha GPC actually does and what it is capable of doing. Because it's a really, really cool ingredient, something very unique, and it's not exactly the cheapest ingredient either. So when brands put a legitimate material in there like alpha size, they're really taking an extra step to make sure that their product is efficacious and is actually going to provide benefits. A little bit of intro into ChemiNutra. So we are part of a very large Italian-based company. It's actually family-owned still. It's kind of surprising how big it is for being family-owned. But essentially, most of the company does pharmaceuticals. So they have reaches into Korea, Iran, the EU, Spain, Chile, a lot of Africa as well. So basically, what they generally do is they develop generic versions of flagship pharmaceutical ingredients and then bring generics to the market at a lower cost. We are ChemiNutra. We are part of this company. We operate entirely differently. We are the only branch that is involved in nutraceutical ingredients. So no other branch sells into dietary supplements. They're basically all pharmaceutical. I'll loop this in a little bit later because there is some relevance to the parent company being a pharmaceutical grade production facility and producing pharmaceutical ingredients. So we're not exactly like most of your ingredient companies either. So I'll just go into a little bit of detail. Essentially, in the marketplace, a lot of people will buy ingredients from China and then they'll bring it into the U.S., rebrand it under a different trade name, do some clinical studies on it, and then resell it. But they're not fully integrated. We are essentially our parent company are experts in phospholipids, and basically everything that we sell is phospholipid based. So everything is produced in-house. We have vertical integration. We have complete oversight on what's going on. It's a really, really cool process. We do production in Italy and Brazil.
I'm so sorry, guys. Just give me 1 second. The people online can't hear anything that he's saying. So I'm so sorry. I'm trying to fix it. Bear with me for 1 moment, please. Any IT people in the house? Anybody here really good at IT? Yeah, I'm gonna pause the share really quick, and then. Well, they're saying that it's muffled, but they can hear everything else, so that's gonna.
Because they're picking it up through the mic.
Oh, okay, okay. Okay, so how do I do this?
Stop share.
Oh, okay. Stop share.
And then we share the screen.
Share.
Click this one. Share computer sound.
Share computer sound. And here. And then
Share the
here.
screen you want.
Share the screen. Right?
Not sure.
And then what is this?
You'll have to put your password to allow it to do that.
What password? Oh. My password. Okay. The default speaker is changed to the no. Oh, the presentation? Okay. Okay, I think we got it figured out, folks. For everyone at home, please just chat into Ashley and let's make sure that this works.
All right, so going into alpha GPC, very
I'm going to go back one slide. I'm sorry for who I'm repeating this for. I'm not really sure what to do, but we're just going to start from here. The difference between Cheminutra with Braxton Ray.
That's great now.
So we're not exactly like most of your ingredient companies either. So I'll just go into a little bit of detail. Essentially, in the marketplace, a lot of people, they'll buy ingredients from China and then they'll bring it into the US, rebrand it under a different trade name, do some clinical studies on it, and then resell it. But they're not fully integrated. We are essentially, our parent company in Italy are experts in phospholipids, and basically everything that we sell is phospholipid based. So everything is produced in-house. We have vertical integration. We have complete oversight on what is going on. It's a really, really cool process. We do production in Italy and Brazil, but AlphaSci specifically is Italy only because it is a pretty sophisticated production method through ion transfer and exchange. And Italy is our better facility, I would say. They've been in operation longer as well. So essentially what we do is we pioneer new ingredients to the market. Phosphatidylserine, like our Serenade, our Alpha Size, our Alpha GPC, and mediator phosphatidic acid. Those were the only one of their kind on the market when we introduced them. Mediator is still the only one actually as well, but there's been some knockoffs essentially of phosphatidylserine and Alpha GPC. But we have always brought absolutely new novel ingredients to the market. And then what we do, since they are brand new, we always have to back with clinical research. And I'll go into some clinical research on Alpha GPC in a few minutes. But essentially, we go through decades worth. The benefit of having a large Italian-based pharmaceutical company is that we actually use some of the same materials that they do for our end product. So Alpha GPC is actually used as a pharmaceutical in the EU since 1980s, 1970s. So there's a ton of research there. Generally, their doses are pretty high in comparison because it is pharmaceutical and the cost isn't directly correlated to the end consumer. Insurance will cover part of that so they can kind of afford that as well. But we can ride on some of that research, but we as Cheminutra in the US support a ton of research. We've done dozens of studies for all of our ingredients. We have those on file for anyone, and a lot of the claims that Xendurance is using on their product is probably directly off of those as well, because we do some quality stuff. And then we support brands, like I just said, like Xendurance is using some of our studies to support their claims. That's what we try to do. We try to bring legitimate ingredients to the market that are actually going to benefit you guys. And then they're all produced under pharmaceutical grade production methods because they're actually produced in the same pharmaceutical plants that all the pharmaceuticals for our Italian companies that are distributed all over the world are in. And Alpha Size is kind of a unique one in there as well because that Chemi and Italfarmaco, those are basically the co-parents of Cheminutra. Essentially, they use Alpha GPC in pharmaceuticals over there, and they actually use it in intramuscular injection, so IM. And I mean, the quality control on that has to be absolutely top notch. And we use the exact same material, and they use it orally as well. But I mean, we use the same material, so the quality standard there is absolutely insane, which is always good, honestly, because I mean, safety is huge nowadays, and there's some questionable ingredients out there, and I'll touch on that as well. All right, so going into Alpha GPC, very simply, honestly, it's called L-alpha glycerol phosphorylcholine. Alpha GPC is the main trade ingredient name that you'll see used on most labels because the other name is very long, honestly. So essentially what it is it's a choline donor. But it's unique in its own right because there's many choline donors out there. There's choline bitartrate, choline chloride, CDP choline, viticholine is like a branded ingredient. That's one of those. But essentially, there are some major differences between them. Choline chloride, choline bitartrate, they provide choline to basically the body from the neck down. And it's only so efficacious, I would say, because it can't really be incorporated because it is just a salt. It's just a free-floating choline once it's absorbed into the bloodstream. The difference of this between alpha GPC is the most bioavailable choline source for acetylcholine production in the body, and that is because it is basically lipid bound. It's bound to a glycerol backbone, which gives it the ability to cross the blood-brain barrier. So what you're seeing on this slide is the makeup of choline in itself, or alpha GPC in itself. The choline molecule being on the right side, it's bound to a phosphate, and then a glycerol backbone is on the left side. If you're not familiar with glycerol backbones, they're the same thing that are attached to triglycerides. It's a glycerol with 3 fatty acids attached to it. So what that kind of gets at is the absorption rates of lipids and fatty acids are very, very high. It takes basically no energy but from the body to absorb them. So basically alpha GPC is riding off the same mechanism, and it gives it the ability to cross the blood-brain barrier, which is significant because it replenishes acetylcholine. Acetylcholine's main place where it is going to be in the brain. It's involved heavily in neuron transmission, whether that's for like mental thought or physical benefits or physical power production. I'll go into that as well. But alpha GPC, very simple, very unique, and it's been used in Europe and Asia for severe cognitive decline with significant positive results for honestly decades. Those are relatively high oral doses and then intramuscular injection as well. But it's a very, very cool ingredient and relatively new to the US still. The animation on the right. So alpha GPC, what does it actually do? So when you take it orally, it is absorbed in the bloodstream very, very quickly. Really doesn't need any mediating transporters or anything like that, since it's kind of lipid bound. And its benefit, what it does is it's absorbed in the blood. It can cross the blood-brain barrier into the brain, or it can go into the peripheral nervous system, like muscle tissues, essentially. And it immediately increases the stores of acetylcholine. Acetylcholine being basically like the gas to drive your car, but for your brain and for your muscles, it has to essentially tell the muscles to contract. It's the main communication between neurons, essentially. So when you're a long day at work, etc., and you start to get like the brain fog idea, it could be easily acetylcholine breakdown, because essentially you can only use it so much before it starts to break down, and then levels dissipate, making thought processes a little bit harder or more strenuous, just because you don't have that proper functioning, that proper firing. And then beyond the brain in itself, it has some significant benefit for muscle power production, muscle usage, muscle motor unit recruitment, a ton of different things. We have a ton of studies on them, so it's really cool, but it can go really in depth. But there's kind of a animation on the right side of this slide as well. You'll see like the red triangles coming out of the neuron are essentially acetylcholine. What it essentially needs to do is it's the signal for the muscle to contract. Very simply, it's the starting signal. And then once you run down on acetylcholine, you can only contract to a certain degree. I mean, it's kind of runs on the muscle motor unit recruitment idea. We're all stronger than what we're actually capable of recruiting. It's kind of like that when the parents get like superhuman strength to save their kids or something of the sort there. It's kind of the same idea. Like we have more muscle than we're actually able to recruit. So if you can recruit more, you can technically be stronger. It's kind of a learned trait as well. But it's very simple. It enhances cognitive ability, whether that's focus, recall, reaction times, whatever it may be. And then it just allows you to more effectively command muscle motor recruitment, and then improving basically anaerobic and aerobic performance in the end. So alpha GPC, this is honestly a short list of the studies. These aren't even the studies. These are just kind of like their key points, because if we went through everything, we'd be here for a long time. So essentially these are all supported by our science. The main benefits would be improved cognitive function and delay cognitive decline. Delaying cognitive decline is connected to a lot of the studies that our parent company essentially has done over the decades for their intramuscular and their higher dosage for their pharmaceuticals in the EU. But the good thing about it is they generally address those after they've already happened. Alpha GPC is kind of a compounding ingredient, so you don't have to take as high a dosage if you take it for longer, essentially, to get the same benefits. So once people already have cognitive decline, and then you have to take alpha GPC at a high dose to kind of reverse that or slow it. If you're taking it at a younger age and allowing it to build in your system, because it kind of increases acetylcholine for the long term as well, as long as you continue using it, then you're you're delaying cognitive decline in the future as well. So there's a compounding long-term effect if you are taking it before you actually have a significant cognitive decline. It improves memory, recall, and focus. Those are, honestly, I can't really go into much detail on those because they're relatively simple. You're just able to recall, and you're able to your brain is actually functioning at a better, essentially, because you have more of the main neurotransmitter that it's going to use for thought processes, and being able to store memories or recall memories is just neuron transmission, essentially, between the brain. And maintain and improve mental performance during and after stress or exercise. Essentially what this is getting at, so the study in itself is putting athletes or just individuals actually through an exhaustive exercise. We're to the point where they have that kind of like brain fog after really something hard. It could be acetylcholine depletion or just fatigue in general. But what they did is right after they did a placebo or acetylcholine dosing, and then they had them do tests. I think we've done it on a few different ones. So like reaction time and just basically tests that were timed where they had to go through relatively quickly. And you generally see, or you pretty much always see, an improved mental performance, improved reaction time. Basically what it is it's kind of negating that super exhausted feeling that you get after like a significant workout, which correlates well to that 2 to 3 hour slump that you get in your daily life. Like when you need coffee in the afternoon, essentially, it's kind of like the same idea. It's just easier to produce that when you put people through a stressful exercise instead of just having someone sit at a desk for 7 hours and then giving it to them. It'd be really hard to replicate. And it also replaces or improves the effects of caffeine. Really cool because it doesn't have any vasoconstriction abilities like caffeine does. So it doesn't decrease blood flow. It doesn't impact sleep negatively. So basically if you're trying to get off caffeine, alpha GPC is a great thing to do, or a great thing to take, because it does have energy benefits, and they're very, very acute, relatively the same time frame of caffeine. Like we generally say, you'll see benefits or you'll see energy improvements in like 40 minutes. Honestly, in my opinion, personally, I think it's more like 20. That's just like anecdotal. That's how I feel when I take it. It's usually relatively quick. But it works very synergistically with caffeine, so it basically will increase the efficacy from a objective standpoint, and not necessarily proven by chemical mechanisms in the body, but we have tested this on an objective standpoint, and it's supported by the studies. And then there's no jitters, there's no crash, because caffeine, you're blocking adenosine receptors, and then once the caffeine is away, you have an overload of adenosine that kind of comes rushing in. That's that crash. Alpha GPC is different because all it does is increase acetylcholine levels in the brain, and those slowly break down over time as they're utilized. So there's no up down. It's kind of like an up and like a very, very sustained, like slow down maybe, but you're talking like 13 hours. It's relatively active in the blood, so it's really, really long term, something that you honestly really wouldn't notice. So it's really cool like that. And then it has no negative effects on sleep like caffeine does. Like you can't, some people can take caffeine right before bed. I know I probably could. But it doesn't impact your sleep. It doesn't make it hard to fall asleep. It actually improves the quantity of REM sleep over the night. So it doesn't improve like the overall hours.
from the studies, like everybody slept like 8 hours, but the percentage of REM sleep that they were actually in those 8 hours increased. So quantity of REM sleep within your sleeping time frame. Really cool because I use Alpha GPC. I take it before my workout and then I take it before bed. It's completely counterintuitive. But at the same time, the best way for me to explain Alpha GPC is it's going to allow you to do better at whatever you're setting your mind to do. If you want to sleep better, that's honestly weird. But if you want better sleep, it's going to help you with that by improving REM quantity of your sleep. And it also has some benefits for growth hormone production. So recovery, kind of like an anti-aging hormone as well. But it also allows you to get an energy boost when you want to from like a workout. So essentially like the Focus product that we're speaking about is gonna really take on that focus, that energy boost, because it is paired with a little bit of caffeine and some other energizers as well. So it kind of takes on what is around it and the mentality that the person is trying to get into. It just really allows you to amplify the mentality that you want to be in. It also enhances dopamine production. I'll go into this a little further later, but dopamine is essentially a neurotransmitter in the brain as well that increases motivation. You'll see it a lot in like Focus and like nootropics nowadays. If you see a tyrosine or an N-acetyltyrosine or an L-Dopa or something like that, they're all increasing dopamine levels in the brain. Like that's their main benefit, the main goal. It increases energy levels, motivation essentially. It's just a different neurotransmitter, but it works on a completely different scale. But Alpha GPC increases dopamine and actually dopamine transporters, so it actually increases the efficacy of these other like precursors like tyrosine. And then simply it provides an acute energy boost. Studies say 40 minutes. I think it's sooner. I would definitely stand by that as well. It just really depends on how much food's in your stomach as well. But I mean, the energy boost is significant. It doesn't come on hard. There's no increase in heart rate. There's no vasoconstriction. It's kind of like caffeine, but not as like wiry at all. It's just much kind of smoother, like theanine, like they have in the Xendurance Focus as well. It's probably pretty similar to that, honestly. So to move on to some of the physical benefits on the right side of this slide, we have a ton of studies on this. We've actually focused most of the ChemiNutra research on the physical benefits. So increases power output. So anything jumping, weightlifting, cycling, anything that needs like power, aerobic, anaerobic, it's going to benefit both. It's going to delay fatigue in the long run for like aerobics because you have more of your neurotransmitter that's going to allow muscle contraction in the bloodstream and the muscle in the brain. So you're basically delaying when fatigue's really going to hit from that specific fatigue standpoint. It improves agility, reaction time is in there as well, like side jumps, whatnot. Improves fat oxidation and ketone production. Pretty cool there. There's probably a relationship between the growth hormone production as well, because that generally increases fat oxidation. But I mean, it's going to help essentially maintain a lower body fat mass in the end there. Delays fatigue, like I touched on that. Improve reaction time. Again, enhance overall physical ability essentially is what it comes down to. Your neuron transmission and your ability to contract muscle groups just is amplified essentially. And it's a long term. It's not like it only happens one time. It's not like caffeine either, where you essentially can get benefits for a week or two and then the tolerance builds up and then you have to double the dose and then nothing happens after that, and then eventually you're taking a gram of caffeine and yeah, it's a little bit beyond what you probably should be doing. But it just enhances what you're able to do. And then there's also a benefit for thyroid hormone conversion. So essentially it decreases TSH levels. Thyroid hormones are it's kind of a tricky mechanism or a tricky way to understand it. But essentially what that means is it's going to increase the T3, the hormone that is essentially bioactive, increasing metabolism for the most part. And that would relate well to the fat oxidation levels as well. There's probably a connection there as well. But just actually, a lower TSH level is actually a sign of a healthier thyroid. That's generally one of the key things that you look at for hypothyroidism is a TSH level above, I think, 6. So lower, better. So just to go in a little bit more detail on some of these studies, we have a ton. So these are just like 2 very, very short ones. Mental side, I mean, we write off a ton of the research from our Italian-based company, or Italian-based parents, since they've done decades of clinical cognitive decline, dementia, Alzheimer's. We can't really utilize those claims, and definitely Xendurance or other brands can't either, just because it's not allowed in the U.S. because of what it is. But essentially, we've done studies at a ton of different universities. University of Central Florida, we've done a handful at. This one essentially is just looking at reaction time post-exercise. So I actually touched on this before, of maintaining mental alertness for the most part after exercise, exhaustive. So this is the one where they essentially put people through an exhaustive exercise. They're kind of like brain fog, brain dead a little bit afterwards, just those ones that really beat you down essentially. And then they gave them alpha GPC and a placebo. The supplemented group just maintained focus much better than the placebo following the exhaustion. Essentially, it's just your acetylcholine levels weren't depleted, and so their brain can actually function as it should afterwards. So improved reaction time. I'm sure focus and memory is in there as well, but that's not exactly what we're testing here. University of Eastern Kentucky, you have an acute duration here, which is essentially a single dose, just one dose, which is really cool about our alpha GPC, honestly, because it's not one of those ingredients that has to build up in your system to see a benefit. Like, you don't have to take it for like 7, 14, 2 months, like anything of a real time frame. Like, it's an acute. We have multiple studies that support one dose and you're seeing significant benefit, which is honestly wild in the herbal ingredient industry. It's just, usually you have to take them for a time frame before you see any benefit, but we can show it in one time frame. So this one's acute. Basically, it's just supporting a better mood, and then increased in accuracy on reaction time tests. So essentially, this is going to be a test where they're timed. They're trying to answer questions as quickly as possible as well. I know this one, they did the reaction time, which is like light buttons, and then it also did basically a little test that was timed, and it's kind of like those times tables when you're in like 4th grade. It's like you never have enough time, so you're just rushing through it and seeing how many you can get right. Essentially the same idea, and just answer accuracy improved significantly with alpha GPC in comparison to placebo. We have a bunch of other studies going on right now, or about to come out as well. So we have one that's coming out of San Angelo State. It's basically video gameplay improvement for alpha GPC. That'll be pretty cool. That'll be interesting because that gamer community is large. And I mean, actually the Focus product that Xendurance is releasing would actually correlate well there. And then we also have a new study coming out for reaction time. I know they were doing testing like a few weeks ago, so that'll probably be a few months before it's actually ready to be released. Then to move on to the 2 studies for physical benefits. So this first one is probably like our flagship one. It's actually a really, really cool study out of University of Louisiana. Subjects took alpha GPC for 6 days, and then they saw a massive improvement in peak power output. Essentially, like they use isometric mid-thigh pull peak force, essentially the peak power output, anaerobic performance benefits there. The significance is it's a pretty cool study. It was really large. So this is kind of where the alpha GPC for physical started, and then we just go into a ton of different ones over the years. The next one is at Eastern Kentucky University. Essentially, you're seeing the same thing. Peak force production during they did a plyometric push-up was significantly greater. I mean, 12% with a acute dose, a single dose, one dose. You're seeing 12% benefit, which that p-value right there is a significance, like very significant. versus alpha GPC and placebo. So, I mean, you're looking at a single dose and you're getting benefits, which is wild. And then it's a compounding ingredient as well. So as you take it longer, you get more benefit. And then there's a ton of different studies. The list continues and continues, and we keep building onto it. So, I mean, if you guys want any of these studies, you can always ask the Xendurance people. It may be interesting. Our website doesn't have a ton of stuff on it, so we'd probably have to provide it through email either way, and they can get us in contact. To go into a little bit of the issues with alpha GPC. Alpha size is a full grass, very safe product supported by the FDA. All natural, plant derived. We have studies supporting safety and efficacy back to the 1980s. Produced by Chemi since 1991, has decades of usage in pharmaceuticals in the EU. Intramuscular injection, like you can't have any haywire ingredients or like side ingredients or contamination in there because, I mean, you're bypassing all your body's defense mechanisms by just injecting directly into basically the bloodstream. So, I mean, the safety is insane. And we use the same thing for oral ingredient or the oral products that we provide as alpha size. So it's produced in an FDA inspected pharma facility in Italy. This is outside Rome. We just actually got the USP monograph kind of published, which is big. Not so much for the nutraceutical industry, but essentially USP is a pharmaceutical grade ingredient. Generally, you see like acetaminophen USP or one of those like pharmaceuticals will usually do USP because that's the designation that it needs. And our customers like Xendurance will be able to actually use this in their ingredient panel once we have this fully rolled out, which is happening this spring. So you have alpha size, alpha GPC, and then you have other alpha GPCs. There's a lot of question marks around these, honestly. A lot of them are produced synthetically in China. Not all ingredients from China are bad, but this is not one of the good ones. There's zero efficacy, there's zero safety studies. They use somewhere between 8 and 10 production methods, meaning there's relatively no standardization. They start with some questionable materials like glycidol and then 3 MCPD and 2 MCPD. Basically, these ingredients are known like carcinogens in the US, but what they do is they use them as a starting ingredient and then they go through a chemical reaction which basically will turn it into alpha GPC in the end. The problem with not having a standardized production method is that you don't always get 100% conversion. So there's usually a little bit left of these like glycidol and other carcinogenic compounds left in the end product, which we've actually tested some. And generally, there's always a little bit in there, at least. I mean, it's a carcinogen, so how much do you actually want to take? Like, the dose is the poison, and the dose for the poison is probably pretty low in this case. Yeah, so it's questionable. There's some that have really high concentrations, and there's some that are relatively low, but anything is not acceptable, honestly, in the end. And alpha size can't actually have these in there because we come from a plant origin. The only reason that those other companies have it in there is because they use this as their main starting material. The ingredient is generally cheaper, so that's how it's kind of gotten into the US marketplace, but it literally has no safety studies, has no efficacy studies. They ride off of what we've done for the decades. It's just not really an acceptable ingredient in the end. We could probably talk all day on this, but it's interesting. So the criteria to be effective for utilizing alpha GPC in a product, essentially. So you have to look at the product quality of the alpha GPC. I mean, this is directly comparing to the last slide. So I'm looking at a synthetic GPC versus a alpha size. I mean, we're honestly, Chemi and alpha size are really the only legitimate players in alpha GPC. in the world. Basically, everybody else who produces is out of China, and it's kind of questionable. So essentially, you're looking at clinically proven to be effective and studies to support that. We have decades worth of it. The generic materials have technically none. So you're really looking at product quality there. And then the choline source, you'll see a lot of products that use like choline bitartrate, choline chloride. These are essentially choline salts. They absorb into the bloodstream. They give you a choline into the bloodstream, which benefits like the liver and some other small things. But it isn't highly effective or utilized within the body because it is just a choline salt. It can't cross the blood-brain barrier. It can't really be incorporated into the nervous system well. The body does do a little bit of conversion to alpha GPC from these choline salts, but it's like 2%. So it's actually pretty insignificant. And if you take high doses of choline salts, there's actually some negative benefits, as in like you'll sweat like rotten egg smells. And there's some conversion to other like TMAO and some other issues that may actually arise as well with high doses there. So the really only way to get alpha GPC into the bloodstream is to take alpha GPC. The other choline salts just aren't effective. And then, I mean, alpha GPC can cross the blood-brain barrier. It's been shown to be effective in the nervous systems. It's just that's really the only effective one when you compare it to any other choline salts. And there's plenty of studies that actually do compare alpha GPC to all other choline sources, and there's always a significant difference between alpha GPC and all the other choline sources. So it's unique in its own right. And then dosage is really going to be the last one and the main one. You have to clarify that you have a proper ingredient and that the quality is there, and then you have to actually give the proper dosage. So there are some companies out there who will do the pixie dust method where you might get like 2, 3, 4 milligrams. And it's really questionable, or some people will give you 20 milligrams and it seems a little bit better. But really what we see is once you hit 100 milligrams of active, then you're really getting to ride on those clinical benefit claims. And then the Xendurance product, it provides 150 milligrams of active, very, very solid. And then with the compounding effects of alpha GPC, you're going to see improved benefits over the time frame that you're taking this. So you don't need huge doses up front. You just need consistent dosing. With any herbal ingredient, that's really what you need is consistency, and that's where you see the benefits. Anything under 50 milligrams of active is not even going to be really significant. And then you have the pixie dust, which obviously is not significant. But this dosage of anything over 100 is really going to be supported by all of our research. And then the compounding effect, you'll see benefits over the time frames as it builds up. So the product in a whole, Xendurance Focus, there's a handful of ingredients in there. Some of the most synergistic ones is the ones I'll touch on. Alpha GPC, caffeine, theanine are going to be really, really cool together. The caffeine dose is relatively conservative, which is always nice because you don't have as much vasoconstriction or just wiredness. So you're inhibiting adenosine receptors there. Alpha GPC is increasing acetylcholine levels, which is a complementary but completely independent system for energy levels. And then you have theanine, which influences brain waves, essentially for a calmness energy level. So it should work very, very synergistically there. It'll be kind of cool to see. And with the lower caffeine levels and the beetroot powder in there as well, you're not getting that massive vasoconstriction from like 400 milligrams of caffeine. And then you also get the nitrates from beetroot powder, which is essentially going to vasodilate the blood vessels, improve oxygen flow to the brain, blood flow to the brain as well. It'll be really good. It'll be very steady. I don't think you'll see much of an up and down at all. It'll probably be very steady for at least 4 hours. It should be interesting. Alpha GPC and then tyrosine. I touched on this earlier with the dopamine production and dopamine transporter increases as well. Tyrosine is a precursor to dopamine. Dopamine is that neurotransmitter that essentially is for motivation. It improves energy levels as well throughout the day. But alpha GPC will actually improve the dopamine levels beyond what tyrosine could do on its own. And then it also increases transport proteins, which essentially in the end will allow tyrosine to work better in the brain, or once it's actually converted over to dopamine, it will allow it to work better due to transports. I mean, honestly, that's the most synergy that I can come up with. It's all true to fact. Alpha GPC and caffeine have been shown multiple times to have benefits with a synergy there as well. It'll be a really cool product for them, and I think it'll do well. Very steady, very sustained, and then you get the long-term benefits of theanine, alpha GPC, and the non-caffeine benefits of tyrosine and some of these other vitamin ingredients as well. But I mean, that basically wraps up what I have to say for ChemiNutra. Feel free to reach out. My name is Braxton Wright. My email is braxton@cheminutra.com. If you want to reach out, I'm sure Xendurance people could put you in contact if you guys want some support that feel like would be helpful. But if you guys have any questions, just let me know. All right, thank you.
Yes, it will not blow you away. What does that product not do? I want to just touch on a couple of things that he said. Alpha GPC is not created equal. So a lot of marketing plays by companies will put ingredients in there. Not only is it a generic form, which we would never use, but also it's not at the effective research dosages, which is truly important. So you guys heard that from him. Not only do you want to disrupt the industry from the direct sales side, but from product education. So we're putting a product out there that's quality, not low ingredients, but also it's going to work effectively, and we're truly excited about it. So I know you guys have a ton of questions. One thing you didn't touch on, 130 milligrams of caffeine. You're going to be able to order it next week, but we're going to go to the product panel now. With any questions you guys have, we'll answer.
So we're gonna. Hi, I'm Michelle. For those who don't know me, hi. Yeah, so if you guys, I know you guys are all really excited. We're super excited about the launch of this product. Xendurance will be making a formal announcement next week with the launch of this product. So if you want to hang tight with all your social media gatherings and sharing and stuff until the actual formal launch, that'd be highly recommended. But obviously share with your friends and family, share as you'd like. But we will make a formal announcement on our social media. And this time I'm just totally taking over Ashley's. I just totally took over your spotlight, sister. Another comic relief. We're going to invite our product panel up. We have 3 individuals that are on our product panel today. We have Micah Madlock, which you heard Rondell speaking so highly and kindly of him. We thank you for coming all the way from Nebraska. So Micah, come on up. We have Mike Behrens, who, if you guys haven't had the pleasure of meeting, oh gosh, these guys are really big. Mike has been working with Xendurance for quite some time. Before we moved to this model, if you haven't had a chance to see him or his base and Beck's performance, you definitely should. But Gentle Giant, he has been with us for a long time, lots of product knowledge. And we also have Becky Basie as well. And Becky Basie is a registered nurse. She owns an IV company as well, where she does transfusions a lot. She's been a nurse for 25 years. Yep, so she's been a registered RN for 25 years. And so I'm going to let them take it away. We have some questions. So Ashley is going to be asking some questions that have been sent in through a few people. So I'm just going to move and let these people take it over. So.
And also everyone watching, if you have questions, please chat them in.
Oh, yeah. Use the chat
away.
user. Chat.
If you have questions, we'll try to answer.
Okay. Micah, keep chiming in. Get close there. We want to see you all. Get cozy. Okay, so first question. What are the best products to start my business off with for anyone?
Start the business off with?
How'd you do it?
Yeah.
You take it.
I started mine off with PO5. Oh, sure, sorry. In terms of like getting people on products or in terms of trying to build a business?
Trying to start the business.
So I started off with PO5 because I knew it was a product that I can get into their body and they could feel it for a long effect. I had to ask people individually, what do you use? You use coffee, you use Red Bull, you use Mountain Dew. What are you using for caffeine? So I could figure out if you needed 1 scoop of PO5, 2 scoops of PO5. So I didn't waste my sample starting off a business, investing money in products. And then from there, I just kind of gave them little pointers about what they're going to feel, how long they're, what it did for me. Like for me personally, I could, my old pre-workout, I get jacked up, but I'll gas out quick. And so this one, I said, I don't really feel it up front. From the end of my workouts, I just don't want to leave the gym. So I gave people cues on what they kind of feel like on the product, and then I kind of gave them a sample and said, I'll follow up with you later.
And then I would say too, with that, the Fuel 5 is a great option because it's carbohydrates. Most people understand carbohydrates. It's an easy conversation to have, and you get an actual fuel source from that. But like when it comes to starting your business and picking which product's going to work best for you, I would figure out the ones that people are going to understand the easiest. So like a fish oil, the omega plus D3. A lot of people understand what a fish oil is. A lot of people already take it, but they don't realize the dosage probably isn't high enough, things like that. But then you can also start with the protein too, because the protein, most people understand protein and carbs. They're going to give me what I need to do the things that I need to do throughout the day, recover, all that kind of stuff. But going with the multivitamin, the immune boost, especially right now, is a great time to use the immune boost because people understand that as well. I have found with the extreme endurance, if you have time to talk someone through it and give them the education that they need, then it's a great one to start with because it's proven. They'll feel the benefits within 3 days. The one downside to fish oil and multivitamins is most people don't necessarily notice it right away, so it's a little tougher. But it's finding that happy balance of what you can educate people with, but then also have them understand and know that, oh, I get that. I know what that is, right? And it's not over their head. So I would start there when you're doing it.
For me, I kind of started getting involved in Xendurance basically because of the immune boost and from the Hydro X because I have a hydration company. So the oral form was something I could give people to say, hey, in between these IVs, this is what you should be using. It has a complete mineral package, electrolyte package, and so that's where I started with. Somebody once told me, ask them what it is that their goals are. So if their goal is weight loss, if their goal is just to be healthier, you can kind of just start with that. The immune boost, I started using about 2 months ago with pretty much all of my clients before even all this, focus on immune system happened, just because it has the most complete mineral vitamin package that I've seen. So.
Cool. Next question.
Thanks, guys. Should you ever cycle off of extreme endurance? Why or why not?
I would say no, because of all of the proven benefits. The big one that I stress with that in response to that is the oxidative stress reduction, because it's been shown to reduce oxidative stress by 39%. For people who aren't really up to speed on what oxidative stress is, the easiest way I can explain it is it's damage to your cells. And if you can tell people, people understand what your cells are. All of our bodies are made up of cells, right? Like it's an easy conversation to have. But when your cells are happy, your body's happy. So the extreme endurance is going to keep your cells happy. Pretty simple. So I would never cycle off.
Plus, you want to keep those blood levels pretty equal. And one thing that the extreme endurance does that even applies to non-athletes, it kind of keeps your pH balanced. So when your pH is balanced, you're going to absorb more of your nutrients from all your other sources, your food sources, your vitamin sources. So, I mean, it's just kind of a side benefit. I actually recommend the extreme endurance for people that are just having a lot of inflammation that are not even athletes, because that's the majority of what I see is the non-athletes. So we've been putting people that have arthritis and other things on it, really high inflammation issues, and it really helps them too.
Great. Awesome. Next question.
Next question.
A good one. How do you take protein and collagen and greens together on a daily basis?
How do we do it? Well, I mix it up in a shaker bottle and I drink it.
No, I think because there's 16 grams of protein already from grass fed in the collagen and greens, and then 20 grams in the protein.
Sure.
And then, as we've preached about the processing of how much protein your body can handle at certain periods of time, I think that's where that question stems from.
Got
Do
it.
you combine them together? When do you take them during the day? What do you guys recommend?
I take them at first. I take them in the morning as like a mid-morning snack. I take the two together. I take the protein, the chocolate protein and the collagen and greens and the Fuel 5 Plus because I like caffeine. But I do that as like a mid-morning snack. But the benefit of the collagen and greens and the protein together is they actually can work together with absorption, because the collagen will help with the protein and absorption too. And because they're different types of protein, your body processes them differently and absorbs them differently. So it's okay to take them together. That's why, yeah. And they hit different avenues. Like, so think about it, the regular protein is targeting your muscles, where the collagen protein, for lack of a better word, it hits everything else pretty much,
Do you take, I'm sorry, there's a question on here.
Do you take the full dose of collagen ingredients and protein together? So
Yes.
one scoop, one scoop?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Thanks, Jerry, for your question online.
Thanks, Jerry. And Jerry, I take half and half. That also works as well.
I'm like twice the size of Ashley, so that's why I get away with doing it too.
Okay, great. Solid answers, guys. Okay. How does Lean Plus work?
We're gonna leave that to the expert.
Not really.
I just heard you do a really great job of
What
explaining
has really been interesting is we actually did a custom IV for a weight loss clinic, and we put chromium in the IV. And so I kind of heard that Lean Plus was a carb blocker, and I kept thinking, why are we doing a carb blocker? Like, well, how's this blocking a carb? But really, it actually isn't necessarily a carb blocker. It actually helps your insulin become more efficient. So you eat a bunch of food, your pancreas releases some insulin to bring your blood sugar down. Well, majority of America is eating too much sugar, too much carbs for the amount of energy that you're using. So it's kind of like your cells are kind of overwhelmed with insulin over time. So it's kind of like when you're telling your kids over and over and over again, do this, do this, do this, and finally they just stop listening. So then what do? You talk louder. So you just give more and more and more. Well, not me, but like other people. So you kind of get insulin resistant, so your cells are really not absorbing that, so your sugars are kind of going too high. So the majority of America kind of going around with high sugars. Everybody knows about the diabetic crisis right here.
Sure.
So basically, there's like 4 main ingredients in there: the porcelain, the chromium picolate, kidney bean extract, and the green tea extract in there. So they're all kind of working together to make that insulin more efficient so that you can break down your fats, your carbohydrates, and your proteins better. So the other thing too that is going in there is the kidney bean extract. Pretty sure that's adding like a bunch of fiber to the whole thing. So when you eat fiber with your food, it keeps your glycemic index from spiking so high. So if you notice when you take the Lean Plus, which you should probably be taking about a half an hour before you eat so that your body can digest it and get it into your system by the time that you're eating, you're not going to get as high of an insulin spike. And then by default, you're not going to get as big of an insulin drop. So if you notice like an hour to 2 hours after you eat and you get those sweet and carb cravings, it's because you had too much insulin because your body's like, oh, we're eating a bunch of food. Let's give you a bunch of insulin. Well, then all of a sudden later, it's like, oof, we dropped our blood sugar a little too much. Now we're craving something. So that's why it kind of takes away the cravings, is it keeps that blood sugar a little bit more stable.
That's everything we were gonna say.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, so you have a new customer coming in. You've never used supplements before, and their goal is to lose weight. How do you help them out? You've never used supplements before. What do you recommend?
Something like I like that because I do it all day, so I can answer this one first. So I'm really good with the one-on-one connection of the person. So I have to have my purpose first. Okay, so let's say the wellness challenge that we just did. I had a hot boy summer and put on about 20 pounds. And so I was looking for accountability this time. When I came in July, I was looking more for to replace the income. In January, I was looking for more accountability to help me reach my goals. And so when I'm reaching out to people, I'm sending the video out. I say, hey, check this out. Let me know if you're interested. I'm not trying to sell them anything. I just want to know who's interested in the accountability side of this group we're about to do. The people that responded back, I would set up an individual appointment and then ask them, okay, what caught your interest? Why are you looking to lose 10, 20, 15, 30 pounds? And you'll get the purpose. So I haven't had my confidence back since I lost a baby. Graduation's coming up. I promised my son I'd be able to wear this dress. I haven't been able to fit in 5 years. You'll get those type of purposes, and then I can figure out, okay, what's your budget from there? How long we need to keep you on products to get you to that point of that weight loss you're trying to get to. And then we can kind of talk about the ingredients and all that from there.
And you had great success with the wellness challenge. Did you add any other products in other than what was in the wellness pack?
Yeah, I kind of did the same thing. Once I found out the purpose and what we're trying to do, I set up an appointment with an expert, Sandy, and then I get the products customized to what we got to do. But I do the same thing for my team. I'm asking them, when you wake up in the morning, what's the first time you eat? When you go in the bed, how many days a week are you working out? Stuff like that, so we can make this wellness pack off of their lifestyle, not my lifestyle, with the weights up there. So we want to customize it. Yeah.
it really does involve a conversation because their hormones could be off and they really need to get somebody to get their hormones checked, or they can't work out enough because they're so sore. So combining the EE with the Lean Plus is a lot of times like a really great package, and they kind of go hand in hand. So it kind of depends on each person and what abuse they've done to their body.
Okay, and then last question that I have is, what is the difference between CB Deep Sleep and CBD Full Spectrum?
You want me to answer that? Yeah, we did. So CBD Deep Sleep is a CBD isolate. So you don't have a full spectrum. That's why the names are different, right? So the CBD Deep Sleep, for people who are concerned with the THC qualities of CBD, you don't get that with the CBD Deep Sleep. And because of the additional ingredients that are involved with the CBD Deep Sleep, it's more targeted towards sleep, where the full spectrum is more of a full spectrum of stuff that it's going to work for, right? So but it has more types of CBD. Without getting too sciencey behind it, there's different types of CBD that your body can use that all hit different receptors in the body, and having more of those in the full spectrum can give you a little different benefit than just the CBD Deep Sleep. But from the sleep perspective, they can both work. I found that the CBD Deep Sleep helps me way better because it's got this other ingredients targeted towards sleep. So yeah, cool. Any questions online? Anybody got questions?
Yeah, send in your questions. Anybody in the room have any questions? And it can be about anything. It doesn't have to be just product.
Well, not anything, but
Xendurance
related, please. No.
Anybody?
No. Okay. Well, thank you, Prad. Yeah, anyone online? I think that we had to just make sure.
Nobody coming in now?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, Sandy.
Yeah, tell me about lactate. Why is that?
Why don't you tell us about lactate? You're the expert on it. You tell us about lactate. You tell us about it.
I want to see if you've done well.
I'm on the spot now. I think he's talking to you. Go ahead.
Well, actually, answering all these questions, I've been able to, I came in hot, got the pro in 48 hours, ranked up 2 rankings, and was my first month and a half. And I ain't know nothing about the products. I'm just trying them for my first time. So do the same thing I did. Use your team. Use the experts. If someone has a question on what is lactate, maybe say what you know about it. It's your body's natural source of fuel. But hey, it's a good question. I know the founder of the company. He would love to answer that, and I would love to hear him.
Here's his private number, 24 hours.
Right? And I've done it the whole time, just briefly sampling and setting appointments and setting up meetings and letting these guys go talk for me.
Yep.
And so use your team, and then you're going to learn while you earn.
Yep. But to answer the question, lactate, it's your body's go-to fuel source. For those that don't know, you're either creating, consuming lactate, so your body's using it all the time. Most people think, like when they hear the word lactate, they immediately think lactose, and it's not the same thing. It's just your fuel source that your body needs. And if you really want to dive into the science behind it, if anybody online wants to dive into the science behind it, you can go to xendurance.com and find all that information. Or while you're here, just corner Sandy for a minute. He'll answer all the questions.
Great. Thank you guys so much.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you.
I guess I'll do it. Sorry, Ashley. Hi. I'm ready to go. I don't know what I'm doing though. There we go. All right. So next up, we have the one, the only Thor Kellen. He usually hides behind a desk, but for those of you who don't know him, Thor handles all of our finances, and he is very nicely dressed today. He looks very fancy, Thor. And he's going to go over what's new. So that's what's coming next and what's happening and all that. And you can just click the arrow button. Okay.
Thanks, Michelle. So I have I think, quickest and most fun part. And I think that should be a trend that I just continue on going forward. So we've been working on this for a couple of months now, and it's our new Team XND app. So you guys can go in, you can go in the Apple Store, Google Play Store, download it, type in Team XND or XND, and download that today. So the 3 real objectives with the app, this is over feedback over the course of the year, has been we need to communicate more and more effectively and quicker. And what we know what we can do is give you guys a lot of information via push notifications. So that's the number one really objective of the app is when you go and download the app, make sure you, in the login, just log in with your email that you have associated with your Team XND account. And then there'll be a lot of integrations that we can send you and communications via your account profile. So we're going to still continue to send you guys emails. We're going to still address everything in the leader group or Facebook leader group, but we're going to be able to do a lot of fun and creative things via push notifications. So I would like in a year's time for you guys to tell me, hey, you guys are communicating too much. And I'd be like, all right, cool. Like that's what we want to hear. But as this continues to roll out, we want your feedback on maybe some of the things that you want to hear from us, announcements or additional things. So you'll see on the main screen here, we have the other kind of objectives that we want to accomplish with the app, which is a quick access to your back office so that you can have that full experience in a really portable, mobile-friendly way. You can obviously share this app very quickly with others. We'll have our blogs and pods so that they will be automatically pulled in via, for the Olympic or Road to Tokyo podcast, but also the ones we'll continue to do on leadership development with a lot of leaders. And you can also kind of see on the side menu, we have some other things like events, which are very TBD in this current environment, but we will load on, our monthly calls and future local events will, be able to be found there as well. The third real objective of the app is something that's coming shortly. It's something called XND in Motion and will be found on this app. We're having some people test and get out some of the bugs and give us some further feedback, but it's something that's going to be, it may be, one of the best things about this app once we roll it out. So stay tuned to see more information come out about XND in Motion. I think you guys will really like it when you start to see it. So the next update, once again, super fun. That's all I really do, is about the victory trip. So we had an update that put live in the leader group last week, but here to update again is we had this a 3-time or a multiplier effect for pack sales. So there was a escalating way to if you had a pack sale to earn Bitcoins, and essentially what we've done is simplified it and made it a little more exciting by making it just 6 times the Vcoins you get on product point value. So, and we also made this retroactive. So some people, you can look back in your accounts, get a little jump in Vcoins, and also on all future Vcoins till June 30th, you're going to see a nice jump on every single pack sale that you guys have. So I know we have a handful of people, 6 or 7 now, that are qualified for the victory trip. And we know some people are, right there. Micah, I know you're literally like, I feel like you should walk out of here and probably just knock it out. And Jeremiah, and I know there's, a dozen others that are literally striking distance. So let's finish super strong. And we all want to see you in Cancun. We're really excited about it. And then, so with that, and this is again one for Team XND and Lite. So there was a little difference between the 2 customer types before, and now going forward, you're just going to get 6 times regardless of the customer type. So with that, want to introduce, Ashley's going to come up again and bring in our next speaker. So I promise to be short and sweet, and I'm out of here.
All right, great job, Lauren. Nice update. So our next speaker, he will be joining us by phone, but he is highly regarded in the direct selling industry. He's been a huge help to us here at Xendurance, and he wanted to share a special message with everyone today. So John Winterholler, take it away.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Well, my compliments to whoever in just a few days pulled off the IT portion of this to allow this meeting to all those on the phone, on the internet, as well as you in person. It really is with regret that I'm not there in person. We live in a tumultuous time right now, which we all know and we sense. And at the same time, it seems like every time you turn a corner in the direct selling industry, there's never been a better time for this model to play out. And so my congratulations to Robin and Thor and Sandy for their decision, which I was introduced to about 1.5 years ago, for them to take their entire business that they had invested time and money and years in and moving it to the direct selling model. I was fortunate, as this was just in the formulative stages, to have a call with Sandy. And we did not talk to each other or had never met each other before. But within about an hour, we proved that the model of direct selling is very powerful in that so many people between us that were in this industry. I knew the people who had introduced Sandy to the industry many years ago. I knew many of them who'd been tremendously successful. I gained a tremendous respect for Sandy and Robin immediately because of their success that they'd had and their confidence in this industry itself. Now, let me explain a little bit about why I am fortunate enough to be able to address you a little bit today. I started in the industry about 15 years ago. I founded and ran my own company. I took a deep dive into learning what it's like to be involved in direct selling in a very steep learning curve. And after 9 years, I was able to become involved on the technology side in the back office and commission accounting, and have been heavily involved in that section of the industry for the past 5 years. And I had been introduced to no less than 300 different direct selling companies in those last 5 years on various levels, including startups, including those that are converting, and including those that have been in business a very long time and have great aspirations to become even bigger than they have been in the past. And I can, with high confidence, tell you today that I have seldom, if ever, seen a company more well-positioned than Xendurance. I'm going to tell you a little story here as to how I added a little bit of value. And I hope Thor will smile when I tell this story, but as I was talking to Sandy and Robin and Thor and some of the team there, I said to them, I've got an idea. I think you ought to call your group Team XND. And everybody rolled their eyes at me, and Thor said, no, they've got some names in mind. And so when I left their office that day, I thought, I don't really think they're right. So I went out to GoDaddy and I bought the name teamxnd.com. And like 2 weeks later, Thor called me and said, you know, we really like that name, but we went to buy it and now it's gone. I said, yeah, I bought it. And so the next question was, how much do I want for it? You know, that game that's played out there. And I still think I'm waiting for my $11.95 check from Thor to pay for that. But that was really my contribution to the entire company, with the exception of being able to be a source that they can call once in a while and run ideas past. But I can tell you with high confidence that what I was talking about a minute ago, that I know very few companies that I know about in this industry, which are many, dozens and dozens, that are more well-positioned. And much of that comes from everything that we've heard this morning, that product update, the science update behind the product, the training on personal development, the issues of trust and confidence that someone builds up in someone who introduces them to direct selling. There's a massive shift going on in direct selling right now, headed towards more and more direct-to-consumer type customers, which XND has been on the forefront of, making that part of the compensation plan from the very beginning, that the rewards and recognition that come to those who join as members of Team XND end up being rewarded and handsomely for, because they are a product-based company. Many companies in this industry, as you might know, have very little basis of science to their products. And there was a day that some of us in the room might be familiar with, that the industry was going so rapidly, you could literally throw any product up against the wall and have a run with it. One of the things that appealed to me when I met Sandy over the phone the first times was the history of the product set, which has gotten better and better and more applicable to this industry. As many companies have fallen by the wayside, as others have gotten into trouble from a compliance standpoint, XND has shown to be absolutely perfectly positioned. And let me tell you why I think other reasons for this ideal positioning are. There are very few companies that have the experience set from the distributor side, from the field side that XND started with Sandy and Robin, and their experience in being successful and their network of people who have been successful in this industry. And then you've got this bit of youth out there with Jason and Michelle and Thor and others on the Team XND that bring this almost generation X, Y, and Z and the millennial aspect to this business. And the combination of those two is extraordinarily powerful. I hope that's not lost on you here in the room, how wonderfully positioned you are as this company has cut its teeth converting from its old model into the direct selling model, and not only survived, but done extraordinarily well. Thor introduced some things that are coming, this app today, which is extraordinary. I know of very few companies with just a little over a year tenure who've already got an incentive trip and people who've earned that going to Cancun in their second year of business. The signs of success for Xendurance are so extraordinary and so well positioned that each one of you listening to this call or there in person in Scottsdale today, I hope gain a huge bit of confidence as to what the future potential is, not just for the company, but for you individually as leaders. The other thing that was impressive to me when Robin and Thor and Sandy and I talked was the need to be very vigilant as it relates to compliance, as it relates to international expansion as that comes about. And so they asked me for some recommendations for attorneys who were gifted in this industry. And I'm going to tell you, they didn't take the cheap route. They went with the absolute Cadillac of law firms representing this industry. And they paid a lot of money that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise in order to ensure themselves that they were not only compliant when they started, but they would be ongoing focused on compliance and being here for the long term. And so my compliments to the Kellen family, number one, and the Xendurance team, number two, and number three, each one of you who has chosen to be a part of this extraordinary company. The compensation plan is one of the most fair that I've ever seen, modeled after some companies that have shown extraordinary success in this industry over the past 5 to 7 years. So there's no question that the opportunity exists in an elaborate way for each one of you to succeed to the extent that you want this to be a part of your life as it relates to income, recognition, travel, and it was talked about earlier today, to the level that you want to put effort and energy in. Maybe it's just a little bit of money to augment your current income. Maybe it's just that side gig to give you protection over the downturns of other things that happen in the economy, like we're working on right now. And for many who want to make it that way, they can make it an absolute full-time effort to earn an extraordinary income at their pace and at their leisure in this industry. Now, let's be honest with each other. This is a tough industry. And I say this a lot, but you will never work harder than you will being a direct selling MLM representative for a company, ever. Because it's not 8 to 5, it's nights, it's weekends, it's meetings, it's all these things that come with it. But you also will not find the opportunity to be rewarded based on that effort and energy that you put forward right now, to the extent that you will in direct selling and with a company like Xendurance. So I could not be more bullish on what's happening there at the XND office. I could not be more bullish about what's happening in the field. You know, many of you, I assume, have been involved in other companies in the past who have experienced some of the downfalls that come in this industry. But I can wholeheartedly attest that as I've watched from the very beginning before Xendurance even launched into the direct selling model, as I've watched the pieces and parts come together, the investment in time and energy that I've mentioned before, the combination of experience as well as youth in the business, and then attracting each one of you to this business because of wonderful products, because of the culture that's being built around this company, of which you are not just a major part, you are the culture of the company. As those things continue to come together, I see nothing but huge upside for the company and for each one of you in the room. And so it's my hope that I'll be fortunate enough to be relied upon going forward in the future to give advice, but more importantly, to watch from afar and see Xendurance become one of the premier companies in this industry. I can attest to you based on my experience and my view of the industry today that this is not just a possibility, but it's happening as we speak today. So my congratulations to each one of you. My, again, regret that I'm not there in person. I hope that can take place in the future. My wife and I, Sandy, Robin, and Thor, don't know this, but we are planning on being with you in Cancun. I won't earn it, but I'll pay for it to be there because I want to see this company succeed to the extent that is beyond even the wildest dreams that Sandy explained to me the first time he and I spoke. So with that, thank you to each one of you for being in attendance. Thank you to Sandy, Robin, and Thor for allowing me to be just a little part of Team XND and Xendurance. And I hope I didn't take too much time or say things I shouldn't have said today. So any questions I can answer for anyone?
I think we're good, John. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thanks, John.
All right, guys, thanks for hanging with us. I know it's been a great day. We're winding down our last speaker, certainly not the least. You always got to save the best for last, the one and only, Sandy Kelly.
So I have the tough job of following John, and
I sing a song for
after listening to him, I'm thinking, what can I possibly say that's any better than what's been said? You know, I mean, he's right. This is amazing opportunity.
Make sure you stand.
Yeah, can
right
you?
now here.
Yeah, what do I? Are you
And
gonna,
all you do is just push this arrow button right here
Awesome.
for your next slide.
Good. I don't like that picture. So I'm quickly going to kind of tell you about a little bit of the history and more about the science and what we have going on, because we truly are a science-based company. So this book you see here, The Antioxidant Miracle, was written by Dr. Lester Packer. And Dr. Lester Packer is considered the father of antioxidant research. And on his book, if you were to read it, it talks about, you know, turning back the aging process, building your immune system, living longer, healthier. And it's an amazing book, and it really inspired me to build actually the first product that I made, or the second product. The first product was the antioxidant product, and then I had bad knees, and so I built something for my knees, you know, a joint floor product. So. And then Ken Cooper, some of you, I look around the room, they probably have never heard that name before, but Ken Cooper, literally 50 years ago, 55 years ago, founded and came up with the word aerobic. So he's a father of aerobic exercise. He has also had the Cooper fitness test. Some of you might have read about that in the past. And he wrote this book, The Antioxidant Revolution. So both these gentlemen realize how important nutrition is for our overall health. And it's really important during this time, and we'll talk about that in a minute, why antioxidants and building your immune system is critical. So for me, I have to tell you that antioxidants are really important, and movement. You heard Thor talk about moving, and we're going to talk about motion and moving, but I'm going to have you watch a little short video that Ken Cooper has done, and he was celebrating his 50th year in his Cooper Center in Dallas, Texas. So, and how do we start?
Just one more. Just click it one more time.
Okay.
A little bit faster, 3.6 miles an hour. No, I could never predict what I'd be doing at the present time, all over the world. And to be 87 years of age, I never thought I'd get this. So my father died at 77. I already outlived him by 10 years. Now I'm going to go through some exercise on the equipment. The whole world's opening up to us because we're proving that preventive medicine is here to stay. 18, 19, 20. Now keep in mind, when I was in medical school back in the 50s, we were taught that preventive medicine was a Cinderella of the medical specialists because there's no profit in health. The profit's in disease. Look at this fantastic oasis we have here now. I'm happy to say it's all paid for. Chuck, good to see you.
Good to see you again. How are you?
21st century medicine is at least proper weight, proper nutrition, and proper exercise. You have to combine all of them. You just can't just concentrate just on one if you want to control your weight. Remember, your health is your responsibility. It's not the responsibility of the government, the insurance company, or physician. It's what you do for yourself. How long you live and how well you live, and hopefully square off the curve. That's my goal. Live a long, healthy life to the fullest, and then die steadily. My life will be complete. The first step in getting fit is to avoid inactivity. Just try walking, collective or sustained, at least 30 minutes most days per week. They can increase the life expectancy by at least 6 years and reduce death from all causes by 58%. As you get older, you need to incorporate more weight training. During your youth, you have good muscle mass up to about 50 years of age. If you don't do something after 50 years of age, you're going to lose muscle mass. Let's do something along with that. 29 and 30. That concludes my workout.
So what I want you to know is that exercise, nutrition and weight management is so important. And so we do all of that. And what Thor was talking about, motion, we're going to talk about motion. Some of you do motion in a high intensity form. And your parents and your grandparents probably don't do high intensity training. And so but by them moving and taking care of themselves is really important. And so you are the gateway to that. And so as we build this out, this company is not just for the millennials and the young, and it's actually for those of us who are over 50, because we're going to benefit the most from it, right? So a little bit about our clinical studies. First one we did back in Germany was 22 elite athletes, and we had 8 pros in that study. And the reduction of lactic acid was remarkable. At that time, we were really kind of just looking for lactic acid. We did check, I think, 13 biomarkers at that time, and of the 13 biomarkers, we did see improvement in 12, but the most dramatic was lactic acid. And then after that study was completed, the fellow who did that research asked if he could do a VO2 max study, and he did that with his pro triathletes, and we had a dramatic improvement in VO2 max. That's never been published, but that's another study that took place. We also, that was published in the medical magazine in Europe, and I think that was back in Vienna, Austria, when we presented that in 2010, I think it was done. And then we did another study on Fran, which we had similar results that we're talking about as far as improvement. It was a short study done in 2015, improving time and strength in a short, pretty open label study. And then we've had studies done. Brian O'Donnell, who happens to be a soccer coach, is a head conditioning coach for the men's U.S. national team, U18 and U20. Brian did his own label study, was blown away. He knew how good the product was going to be because he had used it on Thor's soccer team for 4 years, and they ended up being one of the best teams in the nation because the people just kept going, especially when they had overtimes, and we would still outperform. Those kids would outperform everyone else in the field. So that was great. Also, studies done in Germany. That was with Jurgen, who kept doing more. Japan, Shimano bike, Shimano parts. Shimano's a $2 billion company. They wanted extreme endurance. They did their own study. Okiyama-san, the president, contacted me over in Germany, and so they ended up doing their own study. But we've had Olympic teams do study, the speed skating team. So we've had a lot of good things go on. The thing I'm really impressed with is a reduction of oxidative stress of 39%. That's huge because oxidative stress is a leading cause of degenerative diseases. And if you and I can reduce oxidative stress, that's huge for us. I'm gonna come back to that. Good. So we talked about immune boost. When I first built our antioxidant product, it was called Vital 40 Power. And I'm gonna have to put on my glasses, but I'll tell you something that's pretty interesting. You'd have to eat all of that food to get what you get out of Vital 40 Power at that time. And I'll just give you a couple of numbers. You have 4 cups of green tea, that's where you get your catechins from. 7 oranges for vitamin C. 9 cups of Brussels sprouts for beta carotene. 25 cups of mango for manganese. And then 230 pounds of fresh spinach for alpha lipoic acid. Now, that was the first one we built, and I can tell you we've made several changes since then. And this latest change, we've actually added accelerators for your own body's natural defense of free radical damage. It's called NFR2, and we now have added that in our product. So not only are we going to flood your body with vitamins and minerals and everything, we are also now going to help your body's own defense system do that same thing. So immune boost is a pretty big deal. I'm going to go back to this. So what is that? Well, you're looking at a cross-section of a small intestine. Isn't that exciting? So you have intestinal alkaline phosphate. That is a mucus membrane that goes over the villi of the cells. And so what you're seeing is, in a very magnified form, are individual cells lining the exterior of the small intestine. And those little things out there, look like fingers, are what actually slows down the food and helps absorb the nutrients into the body in the small intestine. What is happening with intestinal alkaline phosphate, it is a mucus lining. This is a test that we'll have the results back on. It's a mucus lining that lines the small intestine to protect those cells. And if it gets too acidity, you're going to damage that mucus lining. And when you do, you have toxins entering the bloodstream. And so we think we can really help people with leaky gut issues and those things. We can't talk about it until the science, but that's another research we have ongoing right now. So, well, this is different from what I thought.
Careful, Sandy, the camera's on the top.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay, I'll fix it.
Thank you. Hi.
No problem.
Hi, everyone.
All we see is your head now.
There we go.
Are we good?
We're good.
All right. So the eye is amazing, and we take care when we build Immune Boost. We literally have built everything in it for your body. But the macula, which is in the back of the eye, the yellow tissue back there, there's 600 carotenoids, but there's only 2 that actually nourish the macula. And so we have the research dosage in Immune Boost that covers the macula degeneration required dosage to help prevent that. And we also have for heart health, bone health, hair health, right?
I just cut it, so don't show me.
Okay. We've had people eyelashes, nails, but what I'm trying to tell you is that Immune Boost is, in my opinion, the best product we've ever made for human health. Extreme Endurance is the best product ever made for human performance. So we're pretty pleased on that. Let's see what else we have here. So, Immune Boost. And we're really having some bad times right now with all the publicity. I just have up here that 2019 so far, there's been 1,400 deaths. It's just flu. So we're going to have flu, we're going to have viruses the rest of our life. We can't eliminate that. It's just going to be there. And they say in 2020, we could have as many as 30,000. We just want you to stay healthy, and we want you on this product for the rest of your life. And the other thing I would add, for those sitting at home and watching, if you are concerned about what's going on, you should have a couple of these in your house. This is a HydroX. You heard about how important it is to stay hydrated with proper minerals. So we've got the 1-2 punch right here for you. So Anyway, thank you all for watching at home. John Winterholler kind of told you what we're about, and we are that and hopefully more. And we'd love to have you come and visit us sometime. And I'll turn it over to Ashley.
Thank you. Thank you, Cynthia. Great, excellent. Before we close out, we had a question come through, and I think it's a really important question. It's for Jason. So Jason, if you wouldn't mind coming up here so everyone can just hear you answer this.
On the spot, huh?
Yeah, I know. Okay, so question that came through on the chat. Very important question. In your opinion, who is the best sister in the world?
She's getting back at me. Of course, Candace, my only sister. I don't have a choice.
Gotcha, Candace. We had to get Jason
Candace.
somehow. Thanks for sticking with us, guys, and adapting, being here on the internet with us. We really appreciate it. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay active. We'll see you next time. Awesome. Thanks, guys.